Hi everyone, this is Erin from Sandpaper Road, and today I'm sharing with you this festive winter card that I made. Great for any occasion far past the traditional holiday season. I love it. It's so wintry and beautiful, and I've been thinking of making this card ever since I first saw this paper collection. So let me first show you the paper collection I used. This is the Frosty Sparking paper collection by Craft a Clock, and this is the 6x6 paper collection actually that I used today. The whole card is a 6x6 card, which is not really typical for cards in the USA, but I'm part of the creative team for Craft a Clock, and they use a lot of this size card in Poland, where this paper is manufactured. Now, if you like this paper, you can get it in the USA or in Poland. There's links below where you can get it. It's in the Sandpaper Road shop if you live here in the States. And I just love these designs. It would be great to make Christmas cards or a mini album or just a bunch of, great for winter birthdays, lots of just wintry occasions, scrapbooking, all kinds of different things. Now this is the extras to cut. These are fussy cut elements, and this is the Flowers 22 sheet. It's got lots of leaves and flowers, and you do hand cut those out with scissors. And I'm also using some of the Junk Journal Extras set, and this is where I got the quotes from. There's lots of neat things inside, like tab folders, little envelopes, lots of little things. And this is what it looks like when you cut all the flowers out. You'll see those a little closer later on in the video. So I started with a piece of white cardstock, and it's a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock, and I just folded in half to make the 6x6. And I really just needed something to anchor the flowers, so I grabbed a scrap piece of cardboard and was trying to figure out the best way to cut a triangle out of it. Didn't really have in mind an idea for a size. You could see I'm really just sort of mangling this thing, trying to just experiment with a little size here. I tried to simply use a right angle, and it wasn't good. It just didn't look good. So I thought, maybe I can do this a little bit better. So what I ended up doing was just trying just eyeballing it the way I saw it in my mind, really no measurements. And that actually was more of what I had in mind. I like that better. So really no measurement. You saw just what I did. No rhyme or reason. It was just more of an eyeball. Then I went through and I found I wanted to find a piece of paper that was going to be the background. And then another piece I was going to wrap that cardboard in. I think the hardest part is choosing which paper to use out of the collection because they're all so pretty. So with the piece that I'm going to use on the background, since I'm using a 6x6 card base, I'm really just going to trim about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch, just a smidge off the end of 2 adjacent edges of the paper. And you can see that leaves just a tiny, tiny little white lip around the outside. So again, just wanted to clarify that I'm using a 6x6 card base. That's a 15 2/4 centimeter square. So I'm using some score tape to adhere down the panel. Now, if there's text or script writing on your paper or anything like that that needs to be turned a certain way, take the time and make sure it's turned the correct way, because you really can't go back and fix that later. If you try to, I suppose you can, it's just a pain. So now from here on out, we're really not going to work with the card base at all until the very end. I'm just trying to figure out a way I can wrap that paper around that triangle piece. I call it a triangle. I suppose it technically is a triangle, but it's just an asymmetrical triangle. So I really wanted to use a dry adhesive, like not a liquid glue. And I remember that I had my Xyron little sticker maker. I was having some problems here with getting it off, but that worked really well just for running that piece of cardboard through. I suppose I could have used my score tape, but my Xyron was sitting just right there, so I reached for that too. And it turns basically anything into a sticker, as you can see. And I wasn't going to have to wait for liquid glue to dry, so that worked out just fine. Now what I'm going to do is just eyeball and cut around the outside edge of the cardboard, leaving about, it looks like about a half an inch or so, not measuring. But here I am going to be careful, because what I'm going to do is create these angled flaps. Now I don't want to go clear up and touch the cardboard with my scissor. As you can see, there's the tiniest hint where you could almost fit like a piece of dental floss in between the corner and the edge of the paper. Now I'm going to run my score tool just along the edge, just to create a little bit of an easier fold. And now when I fold that over, it will fold nicely. And here I'll just use some score tape to secure down the flaps. Again, I could use liquid glue, but I know what a pain that's going to be, because I don't want to have to sit there and hold it until it dries. This is pretty easy to do, really just folding the paper over. But really the most important part is to leave that just little smidgen of space in between each corner and the edge of the paper. Here's some Distress Oxide ink and a little blending tool, and I'm using frayed burlap. Just to give that just a little bit of definition between the edge and the paper on the card. That looks really good so far. Even though it doesn't look like much, I know in my head what it's going to look like, so I'm excited about that. I've been thinking about this project ever since I got this paper, which was months ago, so it went really quick. Now, I'm showing you here the end of my Sharpie, the end of my pencil. This is the end of my metal stylus. It really doesn't matter, just fine. And I have a piece of foam. And what I'm going to do is just start to create just a little bit of dimension with some of these flowers. Some of them are cut just perfectly already. So it's just going to be a matter of layering. But I have to think, when you're layering, you've got to be able to glue things to other things. And I don't want to glue anything to the card base except for the finished bouquet of flowers. So I want this to be able to kind of stand alone. That's why I'm working off the table instead of off the card base. You'll see me on this project alternate between liquid glue. I'm using the Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive by Tonic. I really like that glue a lot. And you'll just see me alternate between liquid glue, double-sided tape, score tape, foam tape, hot glue. I used the Xyron earlier. I went and got these silver leaves. I just knew that I was going to want them. This is actually, this is leaves 4. And aren't they beautiful? Just silver leaves. They coordinate with a lot of the different collections by Craft O'Clock. Just this nice silvery gray leaf. So it's not exclusive. I was sitting here I was sitting here thinking, having my coffee. But I really wanted it to like cascade and burst. So sometimes it's hard for me to make something that's in my head come out onto the paper. But these designs and the cut aparts and the fussy cut elements and the leaves, they really make it really easy. Now, I spent time cutting out these leaves earlier, probably like a month ago. I cut them out and just, then I can pull them out and use them on a variety of different projects with different collections. Gray and silver, that's a nice neutral, so they go with lots of things. You can already see it starting to come together, and all I've done is glued one flower piece and now this one leaf. That's gorgeous. That's actually gorgeous just the way it is, isn't it? Try to show you on some white there, just so you can see. Now the thing with the leaves is, you almost have to think, okay, this is going to go underneath. I want it to go underneath the flowers that I put on top. So I have to sort of pre-imagine what things are going to look like before they're there. I don't have the flowers assembled or made yet. I'm going to kind of layer flowers on top of flowers. And so just starting to get things going. I did a little mini in-home card workshop a while back, and I remember as we were doing the project, some of the ladies were amazed that we would take the time to pick out some flowers or some paper and then just cover it all up. But it's not really covering it, because if you look even in a garden, things aren't really covered up with other flowers in a realistic garden. They're just layered, and you see just hints of things behind and in front and to the side. So to create that kind of effect, you're going to need to start with something that's all the way behind something else, and then just keep layering and layering and layering. The other thing is, sometimes it's kind of hard because you don't want it to look just like a random mess. Sometimes I look at projects, finished projects, and I think to myself, now that doesn't even look like it has a beginning and a middle and an end. So I suppose there's a sort of a little self-check for you to see, if it starts to look too busy. Can you see the beginning, the middle, and the end of the project? If you can, if it just looks like a big blob of stuff, then you might have too much stuff. Now here you saw me press down some flowers. I'll show you again. I'm using the marker this time, just pressing onto the foam. I'm pressing the paper into the foam. The foam doesn't do anything except create a soft surface. Then I use a hot glue gun and just literally glue a flower on top of a flower, and that is it. It looks like they took so much more time than they actually did. I'm not pushing on the flowers too hard either. I'm letting that glue just sort of dry on its own and use its own dimension. And look at that. Look how just laying them there, look how beautiful that looks. It's really starting to come together. I really like it. But I can see I'm going to need something in the back there. See how I have to lay that tiny flower on the table? That means there's nothing to ground it. So I'm going to have to put something back there, or I won't have anything to glue the little flower onto. This will be good because then it'll provide a little bit of background too, and a realistic, just a realistic background. I'm only gluing part of it down because I'm gluing it to the back. You'll see right here. There's nothing, only that part is sticking to the cardboard. It's so pretty. See, now I can fit things inside of there because I've created, it's not a pocket, but it's like a little space. so I can fit more things in there. And it doesn't matter if I can see it perfectly or not. I'm just trying to create the look of a bouquet. That's looking like a little bit much. Yeah, I'm gonna have to shove that in a little bit better. That's okay. It's I'm using the grayish bluish flowers there because I'm not trying to feature those flowers. I'm just trying to make more of a background. The featured flowers are really more the pink ones. Yeah, that'll look good too. It just create more of a background, and I'm not even going to ink that because I do want it to kind of just cascade into the rest of the background. Again, the pink flowers are going to be the feature. I just needed something to glue them to. Yeah, that looks good right there. That looks good. There, that's so much better. I love that. See, and now I can tell, okay, before I glue those down, it would be smart of me to put another leaf down underneath and one more maybe right in there. But probably on second thought, I think what I'll do is glue this behind. Yeah, that looks good too. That looks really good. That'll get glued to the actual card eventually, but right now it's going to kind of be hanging off a little bit. Now I'm taking I have like a little piercing tool and just piercing a hole directly through the hot glue and the double flower there. And now I've got some brads that I had in my stash. These are retired ones from Stampin' Up. Well, I shouldn't say they're retired or not. I actually don't know if they're retired or not, but I'm not a Stampin' Up person. They were given to me. And just put the brad right through the hole. They're perfect. Don't they look so nice? I have those they're like sequins. They're like shaped sequins that look like snowflakes. I'll put a few of those on maybe if at the end. But it's sort of like a brushed, like almost like a pewter looking. Oh, it looks so good. I love it. Just love it. Look at that. Looks really good. I almost feel like it needs just like a little bit more leaf or something just right down the center there, like in the bottom. I don't want to overdo it, but it doesn't look quite natural. So let me just put one more little touch down there. I think that should be good. That's a little bit better. Yeah. It almost looks like a wedding bouquet actually. Just beautiful. That top flower, that top smallest flower, I think I'm going to need a little bit of foam or cardboard or something. That's another just little leaf right there. Just a touch. Yeah, that looks fine. I love these flowers so much. The first time I saw these flowers, I was like, oh my gosh, I could just make a card with just the flowers. There's so much more. There's a whole other sheet of extras to cut the coordinate with the collection. I didn't even use not one of them in this project. Just the flowers. Yeah, this I'm going to need a little piece of foam tape. All I had was black on hand, but that's okay. I'll use something to cover up the black from the side. Just a big, big, big gob of hot glue right there. And I'm just trying to stick it. Remember I had that hole, that kind of like slidey pocket? Well, I'm trying to just fit everything together. There's lots of dimension. It looks fantastic, but I don't want you to see a big black piece of foam when you look at it from the side. So I think I will use like a pine cone maybe, or like a little berry or something, and just try to camouflage that a little bit better. There's a pine cone. For some reason, I put this big gob of glue and I don't understand why it didn't stick. It was just pretending it wasn't. It was like it was pretending it wasn't glue for a second. So sorry about that. I had to move it off camera and just mess with it a little bit. I love that there are these little extra berries, just little things that come with it. It just really makes it look so good when you're trying to arrange something. Like this project's a perfect example, and you're like, oh, it just needs a little something, something. And then you can just pull out, the berries are right there. It's just perfect. I don't know what I was looking for at this time. I know in my head I was like, can't I just find just one small leaf? And I couldn't find exactly what I wanted, so I think I just used a pine cone instead. And then I couldn't find the size I wanted, but eventually I found it. I totally burned my thumb right there. I remember, I mean, I'm doing a voiceover right now, but it hurt so bad. If you've ever burned your thumb with hot glue, it hurts. So be careful if you're using a hot glue gun. I was just going along and all of a sudden I got sizzled. So I'm going to use the, I think it says Festive Season. Just this little quote. Now that's from the Junk Journal set, which is really nice that it comes with little quotes. It's a really nice touch. Just a little bit of hot glue. Why do I use hot glue, you ask, instead of foam tape? I don't know. It's just quick and it gives dimension and it's real quick. I mean, yeah, you get the occasional burn, but if you can stand that, sometimes I just reach for hot glue. I just like the dimension that it creates. Now, I think what I wanted to do here was, I remember I was going to create just a little, it just needed something else. It looked unfinished just sitting there on the card base. So I needed to ground it to something. The bouquet is what I'm talking about. So I used a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I just cut it in half, saved half of it for a card base, and the other half I'm going to run through my Big Shot. And I have this die. It's like a shape, just a shape die. I got this from Creek Bank Creations. I really like it because it's got a stitched edge. Little piece of washi tape there to hold it down, and that is that. That's really simple. You'll see what a difference this makes. Just this little, one little piece is going to make the biggest difference in the whole card. So I'm going to use a little frayed burlap and just ink the edges just a little bit. Not too much, but just a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Now I've chosen another piece from the collection, and just like I did for the front, I'm going to just trim off, I have to think of here which two sides I'm going to trim it off of, just about 1/4 of an inch. I mean, it might be even a little less than that, maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, just small bit, just right off of two adjacent sides. Although because I have a circle pattern, it didn't quite look even, so I had to just eyeball it just a little bit more. And that is going to be a very nice inside of the card there. Just using some more score tape to adhere that in there. I could put another one of those sentiments or quotes from the Junk Journal set, but I might do that later. But for now, I think I'm just going to leave it blank. It's so pretty. Just nice coordinating flowers on the inside. And then that's where the bouquet will go on the outside. Doesn't that look good? See how the white just makes it just pop just a little bit. Also, I didn't put it directly in the center. Now I'm tying just a little bow. I got a little too tight on my fingers there. But you'll notice that I don't have the bouquet centered there, and that's fine. So now I've got my little bow, and I'm going to just trim off the ends of the ribbon. This was all that I had of this color ribbon, but I thought, well, maybe I can stretch it a little bit and use that little piece to make it look like I wrapped it around it. I was cutting it a little bit close there, but it actually did work. I don't think you would know. If you weren't watching the video, I don't think you'd know it wasn't wrapped all the way around that triangle. It's just taped. And it's not even taped very, very well, actually. Look at that. I didn't even make it. I had to trim off that excess side. But once I put the bow on, you don't even notice. I put this huge gob of hot glue on there and stuck it down. Well, then I had all this hot glue excess, and I thought, oh man, that's gonna dry in a big gob. So I had some of these like these ice crystal things that I've had forever. I mean, just forever. And I just sort of sprinkled them and let them fall into the excess hot glue. That was really, I was thinking about using them elsewhere on the card, but I thought, nah. Yeah, it's called shaved ice or something. I use it. It's lasted me just forever because that's about how much I use on a project. It'd be really cool for like housetops though, wouldn't it? Or snowy like scene projects, that kind of thing. Okay, so here's sort of the quote unquote moment of truth, where I'm just going to, anything that would be sticking out or that would be flat against the bottom is going to get some glue. I am using wet glue on purpose because this is definitely going to hold the best and it's going to last the longest. So at this point, it's just a matter of making sure all the little nooks and crannies get a nice little coating of glue. And then sticking that right down. Yep, that looks great. I love it. I put a few acrylic blocks on top of that just so that it could have some weight while I was trying to decide here what I was going to do next. My thought was I really wanted to have a little bit of like just a hint of a fine glitter on some of the leaves and some of the petals. And I thought, well, maybe what I'll do is use some Glossy Accents instead of some liquid glue. Normally I would like paint like a liquid glue because it would dry clear. This will dry clear but with a sheen to it. So I thought, well, that'll kind of go along with the wintry scene, maybe look like it's got sort of like an icy touch to the flowers. So just putting some on the craft mat and with a paintbrush, I'm just really lightly just going over some of the leaves, some of the flowers, just anything that's kind of sticking out there. I'm not trying to overdo it, and I'm really not trying to take too long because Glossy Accents dries quick. And because I'm not using very much, it will dry even faster. So yeah, you saw how much I used, just not very much, and just enough to just sort of, no pun intended, but just sort of gloss over the edges. Okay, and now I've got this thing that's, it's called a pixie puffer, and you may have seen it before or something like it before, and it, you can put a little fine glitter inside it. If you look really closely, you can almost see it like puff out. It's like a little, imagine like, see how it's coming out of there? It uses air and it just kind of fluffs it out onto onto your surface. Now I overdid it a lot because I wanted you to see it on camera, but now it's sticking to the anything that's just sticky. See that? See the sheen there? Doesn't that look good? So you've got the sheen. Now it creates a huge mess, but normally I would do it like on a piece of paper or over a trash can or something. But just for the sake, I wanted you to be able to see how it worked. It's so pretty. That is also by Creekbank Creations, that little thing. But like I said, you may have seen it elsewhere or, in, other versions by others. I like mine. Mine works just fine. And then you use the pixie dust that also comes from Creekbank Creations as well. Now here I'm using some snow flurries sequins. They're like shaped sequins and a little bit of glue just for a final touch here. A few snowflakes. I got these from Cat Scrappiness. And there will be links below to all of these products. Actually, when I say below, what I'm going to do is, because there's so many products, I think what I'll do is put the supply list over on the blog with some close-up photos, and that'll be more of a one-stop shop for you. So what I'll do is I'll link down below to the blog post, and then you can get everything you need there in one spot. Yeah, these are great. They're really well made sequins. Look at that. It just gives the last bit of touch. Just so nice. I love this project. Turned out excellent. Here's some close-up photos. Again, head over to the blog where you can link to all these products. Thanks so much for watching and for subscribing. Your subscription means so much, and it is free. And check out my other videos, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.